This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by the good-looking folks at GoDaddy.com. Use our code Linux and save yourself some cash. And welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 23, Episode 3. My name is Chris.
And my name is Matt.
Hey there, Matt.
Hey.
Check out this awesome, high-tech, extremely slick, enterprise-grade label printer that runs Linux.
Nice. And by enterprise, are we talking Star Trek or are we talking for the inner business here?
Well, actually, it kind of has a Star Trek feel to it because guess what? It also runs E17.
Well,
it's running the Enlightened Window Manager.
Nice.
And it struck me as I watched this video. Here is, despite all of these really big companies and projects out there talking about the next generation of touch interfaces and user tablet interface and all these kinds of things, it struck me that the reality is as far as straight up Linux, I'm not talking Android, as far as straight up Linux goes, this is likely going to be the largest deployment of Linux touchscreen technology.
And
these types of roles, these types of devices.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be... I mean, it seems like the ship sailed on the tablet thing, possibly. It's not going to be tablets, at least for a long time.
No, I don't see it being tablet. I mean, well, it's the exception of Android, but that doesn't really count.
Right, I'm not counting Android. I'm saying just straight up Linux, you're running X11 or something like that on there, or whatever it might be.
Well, it looks like it's pretty responsive.
Yeah, it does actually.
I mean,
really
usually
cool.
with these types of touchscreens, it's lots of punching and banging and just
they've customized it, and it's one of the things they're really proud of is their interface. It's a big marketing feature that they list on their spec
And
page.
have you noticed when they have a load screen, it looks a lot like the little Ubuntu loady do?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I thought it was kind of cool, but I think it's really, interesting. It looks like it's pretty responsive. It looks like
we have a video that kind of talks about it a little bit, and it's basically just a little mini PC in there running this. While you have all of these projects, and I know I'm grinding an axe here, but when you have all these projects that are pushing towards making themselves accessible on touch interfaces, and here you have Enlightenment's already beaten to the punch, and it's already getting deployed right now.
But don't worry, I mean, it does kind of. It kind of brings things back to an interesting perspective when you stop and think about the fact that while everybody else is racing to this line, these guys have already done it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, okay, so really, does it matter?
And I would just think in the grand scheme of things, in terms of numbers of deployment, this type of hardware will outnumber the types of hardware that are tablets or direct user standard interfaces.
Right.
But we'll see. And it's very cool to get more Linux out there. And it's not that this is the first deployment in a hardware device that runs Linux.
It's not, but I think this is an effective deployment. I think this is a deployment to where people are going to be like, oh, hey, wow, this is something compelling I actually care about.
And one of the first I've heard that uses Enlightenment.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's actually calling attention to that, too.
Yeah.
A lot of times things are being used in the background you don't know. Like JCPenney's using Ubuntu, for instance. That was an interesting experience. So, yeah, in their eyeglasses shop, I think it was a couple of years ago. But they don't talk about that. Here, we have Enlightenment being talked about. That's cool.
Well, they're pretty proud of the interface they created around it. All right,
nice job.
Matt.
All right.
Now, we have a heck of a show coming up today.
We do.
So in the second half of the show, we've got about 10 tips that we've come up with to make Unity usable. I might even say great. Now, hold on. If you're not a Unity lover, don't tune out. Stay with us. We've got a lot to cover, and I want to hear your thoughts specifically at the end of that segment because I wonder if we might change your mind. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
And just to give you a little sneak peek, our minds were changed during the course of this coming year.
Yeah, in
this
fact,
previous year. So
we'll look back at the things that we said.
And they were some doozies. I let out a can of
Oh yeah, I've got the clip of me just putting my foot in my mouth big time.
Yeah.
So also we've got the results from our bash poll last week, and at the end of the show, we also had a survey done of the Linux Action Show audience to see what the most common Linux desktop environment was in use out there amongst our audience, and we've got the results from that poll too.
That ought to be interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, we've got some feedback coming up, as well as some awesome news and a few more picks. But Matt, before we get to all of that, I want to say good morning to the fine folks over at GoDaddy.com.
Good morning.
Good morning, GoDaddy. Longtime sponsors of this show, and of course, the world's #1 domain name register. And we've got a special offer just for this month. If you use the code, you ready for this, Matt?
I am ready for the code. Give me the code.
It is Go20 off 6. Go20 off 6.
Easy enough to remember.
20%.
20% off anything?
Anything you want at GoDaddy.
Nice.
And I got a tip for you. I thought, you know what? If you're like me and you've registered probably too many domains, maybe you got more domains than...
I've got a few.
Just sitting around, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why not go over to GoDaddy, take advantage of their awesome domain name management system, put them all in a folder, set up a template for those things, and get them all forwarding to the websites that you do use. Get yourself a little SEO love. Hey, I'm not trying to give you any SEO tips here. Hey, talk to your doctor. But I'm just saying, if you got these domains just sitting around, why not have them forward to one of your main sites?
Absolutely.
Maybe help things out a little bit. And you can do that super easy with domain name templates, just DNS templates. Boom, put all of these, have them forward. Bob's your uncle. I drag the domain names into this folder.
Super easy.
Done. Super easy.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
So thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. If you're going to go get yourself a .com, a .us, a .co, a .tv, heck, a .am, just use our code GO20OFF6 and save yourself 20% when you check out at GoDaddy.com.
And continue to support this program.
Absolutely. All right, Matt.
All right.
Let me tell you about my Android pick this week. That
Let's hear it.
Recently, I've been working through what I have labeled my list of shame.
Okay. All right. This ought to be interesting.
Apps that have been around for a little while that I almost, immediately install on my phone, and then for some reason I haven't talked about them on the show. And one of them was because I was holding a grudge against Flipboard. Have you heard of Flipboard?
I've heard of Flipboard, and I have had not a ton of experience with it, but I tell me a little more about it. Sell me on this. I want to feel
Here's
it.
the thing about Flipboard is, first of all, they've redesigned it from the tablet to work on the phone, where it's actually, I think, it works better on the phone than it does in a tablet interface.
Interesting.
And Flipboard is a news aggregator that goes out and it can analyze your RSS feeds. It then will also look at, if you allow it to look at your Facebook page and your Twitter page, and it sees what your friends that you follow are tweeting about, what news stories, and it ranks them and then sort of builds this magazine-like style for it. It can also pull in like what known tech contributors are saying, or foodies, or beer and wine heads, or whatever it might be, whatever the category, and then they'll curate this news list for you. And the reason why I like it is because it sometimes will find stuff that I normally wouldn't have in my average news diet.
Okay, so it's adaptive. It's learning what you like and what you dig.
And it's also just because it's pulling from like friends on Twitter and Facebook. It's like if they spot something that maybe I missed in my feeds or didn't make it to one of the subreddits or something like that. But I actually find I use Flipboard the most when I'm waiting. Like if I'm working at a client for a day and I go run out and order some teriyaki to go.
Right.
Or whatever it might be, right?
Sure.
If I have to sit there for 10 minutes and wait while they cook it, I open up Flipboard and I just flip, and it's this nice flipping motion.
So it's a very, you're using your hands.
It's a good story. You tap on a story, and then when it pulls up the story, it uses sort of a readability converter, so that way it's just the nice, clean text. It's not all of the side banners and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it's sparing me some from advertising things.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I definitely like that. All right.
And they're always adding stuff to it. It's one of those apps that I think if you first play with it, it seems very mainstreamy, consumery, not very focused for maybe the type of people that we are, where we kind of want to get good technical details. We want certain types of news feeds. We don't necessarily want the celebrity stuff.
But then at the same time, if it's adaptive and it's learning what I like, then I think that's going to grow on me over time, because it does allow me to kind of waste a little time and get off of Hulu for a while.
It kind of matters what you put into it.
Yeah,
you got to put in you have to put in like the right sources, and you have to put in the right.
Does it take like an OPML import?
It will import your. I don't know about an OPML,
because that would be a lot.
But it'll import your Google Reader subscription.
Okay, so, well that's essentially going to because I import my OPML or that. Bing,
exactly.
Same problem. Yeah, it's easy. Okay,
that's funny because last week we covered an app that also, remember, it was Light Read for the desktop.
Yes, I do.
That pulled in your.
Yeah.
So that's Flipboard. It's free for Android. It's available for the Internet Operating System phones as well, if you want that. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes, as well as a link to our previous Android pick.
All right, yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Matt, cool. I am quickly installing the desktop pick this week because I have it installed on my desktop machine back in my office, but I don't actually have it installed on the machine out here in the studio. So I am quickly updating my sources list and getting it installed.
Cool.
But so if I can get it installed in time, we'll have a demo. But anyways, it is the desktop app pick this week.
Oh,
I bet you haven't heard of this one, Matt.
I have not, but it looks cool. It's got the word junkie in it, and that's always exciting.
So this has been exposed through the Ubuntu App Development Contest, where folks can vote on great desktop apps. Now, that does mean, at the moment, it's Ubuntu only. But that's like because it's in the repos, and it depends on some libraries that Ubuntu has. I mean, there's nothing technically preventing it from running on another distro.
Sure.
And that'll happen. Because this sounds really, really awesome. So check it out. It's an app called Format Junkie. And Format Junkie is a fully featured media converter. For example, you can do audio conversions between different formats, MP3 to WAV or OGG to WAV or WAV to OGG or MP3 to OGG, WMA to OGG, you know, basically from any format to any other format.
And if you're like me and you're using a lot of different media players and things like that, you will care, in fact, because especially if you're working with something lossless and you want to condense it down to an MP3 or an OGG file.
Or here's another example. You get an MKV online, an MKV video file. You can use this to transcode that to an OGG. Or to an MP4, so you can play it back on your PlayStation. That's
really cool.
Yeah, so
I like that. I like that.
It also can create ISOs from selected video files, and then you can burn those to like a disk. And
I think that we even have a picture of what the UI looks like. I'm really because this is that's pretty.
It's nice, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you can queue them all up.
It's not. I mean, the layout's real brain dead simple.
And it has it ties in with Unity quick lists on the launcher there. So let's see, did it get installed? So it's called Format Junkie. So let's see.
Yeah,
so I'll give you a little
using a little Unity love here. There y'all go.
Junkie? No, I don't think it installed.
Multi-converter? You sure?
No, that's something else.
Oh, something else.
I think that's a different. I think I'll double check. Yeah, that's a different.
That's something else. Okay.
Multi-converter though uses FFmpeg in the background.
Right. Then I've used that.
This Format Junkie does too. This is a little more technical. It's not quite as nice as Format Junkie is to use. But anyways, yeah. So Format Junkie is. I've been loving it. I've been using it this week to take a couple of different files that I have in various different formats and just standardize on MP4 that for anything I want to play back through the PlayStation.
Nice.
If my kid's going to watch it on the PlayStation, it runs through this first, so that way it's compatible.
Well, it looks like it'll even do a queue of files. So if you have a list, that's a big time saver right there because you're not having to like pound them out one at a time. You can just queue all that up. Bam, do it, set it the way you want it, make it happen.
Now, if you are an Ubuntu user, PPA is available right there on his page that we'll link to. And then also, if you like it, consider giving this guy a vote. You know, they have... Canonical's holding this vote, and it's a massive vote of the different apps. Look at all these, Matt. This is crazy.
I was kind of looking at that. I was like, that looks like a lot going on.
Yeah, so it's obviously a pretty big contest, but
goodness gracious,
some interesting stuff coming out of it.
Yeah, I've seen some really compelling stuff coming out of it. Actually, I'm really impressed with it. They should have done this a long time ago.
You know, maybe, but you know, now that they have, it's a little different now because in a sense they have the distribution platform, the store that wasn't totally in place for this before. And
that's true, although. Yeah. I mean, that's certainly fair, but I think that they could have developed these applications ahead of time, had them ready, had them good to go, and then released the store with it initially. But hey, you know, it's happening now.
Oh, that's a good point.
See, that's all I'm saying. It's all about
the store originally.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I think it's cool. It's happening. I have no gripes against it. I have some really cool apps coming out, and the winner's going to hook up. So.
Yeah. So and then eventually, we'll see that trickle out to other distributions.
Oh, totally.
All right. I got a distro pick this week, Matt, that needs to be crossed off the list of shame.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is one that I love. I love me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
I haven't played with it in a while, but it is just so cool.
The distro this week is Untangle. Now, Untangle is a distribution that we don't talk about very often on Linux Action Show. Partially might be because it has a large commercial component to it.
It does.
But you can totally get it for free. Untangle is sort of pfSense done Linux style. It's a firewall appliance operating system with a lot of neat features, including a very nice to use dashboard that has tons of plugins available for it. And this is where some of the commercial stuff gets in. But you can do things like virus blocking, spyware blocking, which is great if you're on a Windows network and you have a bunch of machines. Of course, it has a web filter. It has an ad blocker. It has a web cache. Of course, it does bandwidth controls. It has VPN support. It can do policy management for different WAN failover scenarios. It has all kinds of CAPTCHA stuff where you can capture people that jump on your Wi-Fi.
And see, I used to run one of these on a dedicated box back in the day simply because of the fact that it just took away all the headaches of trying to worry about who's doing what on what machine. This solves all those problems. And most of the commercial apps they have on Untangle are actually available in a light version. So you don't have to fork over cache for all the functionality. There's an option there.
The other thing that's neat, I mean, if you are buying it for a business and you don't mind spending some cash.
I want the small one. Yeah, the small.
Yeah, you can get these hardware devices. So you could start with just a standard PC that runs capable of running Linux, could run Untangle. You build a firewall with this really nice web GUI that you could have other people in your business use that maybe aren't Linux admins, which is really nice. So and then you can sort of graduate up to a hardware appliance if you want to deploy it in more serious use. And they have these little, they almost look like just switch devices that have a little tiny Linux computer on there that run Untangle.
Well, and the form factor is fantastic. It's built on Debian, so we know it's going to be a great option in that factor. And the way the UI is set up is you don't have to be really geeky to run this. I mean, truly any basic power users can be able to run this, no problem.
No, I have seen it deployed at clients where they were 100% a Windows shop, and the Windows administrator deployed this because it was easy enough to use.
Yeah.
Now, all of that said, I still prefer pfSense.
I don't.
I like, and I know it's BSD based, but Untangle's great.
No, I mean, I'm a BSD's awesome, but and it's wonderful, and they've got their cool little logo and all that. But I'm just saying, for me, I know Debian, I know the mindset, I know what I'm getting into. Yeah. If something breaks, I'm not going. What am I doing?
You're absolutely right. There's that nice factor of it's Debian here. I have Debian on my server.
And I
have
understand
Debian on my desktop.
Yeah, exactly. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and I know what I'm doing behind it. With BSD, it's a little more. There's a little bit of a more of a learning curve there if you're not used to it.
You know, we talk about pfSense a lot on TechSnap, but I think we should talk about Untangle more on this show. So I think in the future, we'll probably do like a little setup of it. And it's not that hard to throw it in a VM and then do a VM network behind it. And we could do a client machine that proxies through the Untangle server, and we could show you how to do all that. If you guys are interested, let us know. And
yeah, definitely. I would love to see that happen. So yeah, definitely check that out.
All right, Matt.
Let's do her.
So there you go. Links to the Untangle pick in the show notes. Link to the Format Junkie in the show notes, and links to the Android app pick also in the show notes.
Check those out.
All right, Matt. Well, let's do the news.
So, what's new in the news?
Oh, Matt, our first story is a great one this week. Happy birthday to the Debian project. They turned 19 years old.
19 already? Boy, it seems like just yesterday.
One of really the early proto-Linux distributions out there. In fact, and a fact that they sort of acknowledge here in their post, the Debian project was officially founded by Ian Murdoch on August 16th, 1993. Now, I think we have people watching that weren't even alive.
That's crazy. It doesn't seem like that long ago.
I know. That's what makes me start feeling old.
Wow.
All that time, the whole concept of a distribution of Linux was new. Ian intended Debian to be the distribution which would be made openly in the spirit of Linux and GNU.
Cool. I love that.
And now, I mean, they are a force. I mean, congratulations to them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. Well, man, people don't really understand just how important they really are, such as, things like Untangle or Ubuntu wouldn't have them without Debian.
Right. So. Disco in the chat room asked if we're going to do a review of Slackware 14 when it comes out. You think we should?
Sure.
I don't think we've ever reviewed Slackware on the show.
No, probably not.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. All right. Now, this next story, I wanted to talk about it because the way the headline was written from the Power Base, I was a little disappointed in the headline because it was meant to grab attention.
Yes, there's a term for that, but we'll just call it grabbing attention.
Yeah. Here's the headline. Steam for Linux, quote, another interesting but not valuable contribution, end quote. I mean, look at that.
That's total link bait. I'm sorry.
Total link bait, right? And, of course, I fell for it because I'm totally fascinated by this entire Valve. This has got to be, this whole Valve bringing Steam to Linux thing has got to be one of the things I spend the most of my time thinking about these days. It sounds ridiculous, but...
Well, because of how pivotal it really could be and probably will be.
And I don't think people are appreciating the long-term impact it will have on the landscape of desktop Linux if it's successful.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
There's some things that I think will change for the better and for the worse. I'll talk about them in the future.
Okay.
But this interview is particularly revealing. And now, I won't play the video, but they do accompany a video. And the video is actually kind of obnoxious too. But anyways, here's what Gabe said. We should have Linux and the 10-foot betas out there fairly quickly.
That's good news.
And they're calling the 10-foot beta Big Picture.
Big Picture.
And the way it's described in the video is Big Picture will be a software stack that puts something Steam-related up on your TV, and you can load it on Windows or Linux. See, we've all been talking about a Valve set-top box, but the way Gabe's describing it in the video is Gabe says it's something that customers can choose to put on Linux or Windows.
That's brilliant.
Do you think that could be like a XBMC
if they can do it? If they can do it, that's actually brilliant.
And the way he described it is, it sounds like they're going to offer a complete stack that's Linux-based that hardware vendors could choose to adopt to deploy on like their own set tops, like third-party OEMs could use.
Oh, that's good. That's real good. Oh, that's really good. Because, yeah, that's going to not only mean they're more effective in releasing this stuff in the future, and it's less overhead, less hassle. Oh, that's genius. That's brilliant.
I mean, it does kind of make sense because then their innovation in the software space is unencumbered by restrictions of any particular hardware device.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's honestly, if they did this right, they could actually come up with their own little ecosystem here. That's not bad.
And now maybe I'm misunderstanding, because it's all still kind of, Gabe is really good at using these vague terms.
Yeah, and it's very fluid right now. But if in fact our speculation is correct, and this is in fact the direction they're going to go in, this is a very powerful opportunity for them. I think. It's
and
huge.
one of the things I like about Gabe is, by the way, Gabe also points out, and the Power Base kind of made a bigger deal out of this than I think they really needed to. But Gabe also mentions, just as a follow-up to his comments on Windows 8, I would really like it if Windows 8 was a quote-unquote blowout success. It would mean more money for Valve, and
yeah, I could understand that perspective.
Yeah.
You know,
but he did reiterate his thoughts too, that he thinks Windows 8 not only will be a bomb, but he actually thinks it'll be a setback for the gaming community, because the Windows 8 store, and this is what I'm inferring from what he said, is the Windows 8 store is sort of going to be where people will land to find games, and the games,
more likely,
the game caliber that's in the Steam store, is very, very outmatches the game caliber that's going to be in the Windows 8 marketplace Metro-based apps, right?
True.
So
although
he's saying it's going to hurt gaming.
I honestly think that what's going to happen is existing customers from Valve and all that are going to stay with what they know. As long as the client's available and they can do that, they're going to do that. As far as any new customers or new gamers or anything like that, that is certainly true. They're going to hit a glass ceiling.
Yeah,
because all the newbies are going to go to what's in front of them.
Yeah,
that's certainly valid.
He's also really practical about the potential possibility for failure on Linux. He says Valve's new big picture feature and availability for Linux, saying customers will say this is really great, or they'll say it's another interesting but not valuable contribution fairly quickly and move on.
And this is where that headline was taken into play. But my view on this is really simple. As long as the games are compelling, or at least mirroring what we're seeing on the Windows desktop, and it's stable, playable, and fun,
right? They'll sell.
It's an easy win. There's no question.
Yeah.
The existing gaming efforts on Linux have proven this.
And let's keep in mind too that it's a tight team at Valve doing this. So it's not like the sales have to be such that they justify a massively $1 million investment here.
Right.
But it does strike me that it also means that if the Steam store out of the gate doesn't see a certain level of success, Valve's likely to pull back from that.
I think they probably will, but I think if they're continuing the way they've been doing things and releasing the information and not sitting on it until the last minute, I think this is going to be a huge success for them. I don't think there's any question of that.
Right.
But they need to follow through.
It really is up to them to provide some sort of incentive to make us customers want to spend our money in.
Yeah.
And so if you want to watch the whole video, you can. We have it linked in the show notes. They also talk a little bit about Dota 2, the new Valve movie maker that makes animating machinima type stuff really super
cool.
easy.
All right.
And they talk a little bit about the Linux stuff in the video, so you can check that out. We have a link to that in the show notes. And then tell us what you think. See if maybe you agree.
Maybe we're all wet.
Matt, this next story is just one of those inspirational Linux stories that I love covering.
I read
on
about
the
this,
show.
yep.
So this story is about a 6th grade teacher who built a 70 computer lab for children in the school, zero cost, running Linux. And he decided to go with Ubuntu. The teacher's name is Robert Litt, L-I-T-T. And Robert is a 6th grade teacher who was faced with the problems common for low-finance special schools, the lack of proper or normal school-specific equipment, computers. So he was trying to figure out what to do, and in 2007, he managed to acquire 18 computers via donation. He followed that immediately up by reloading them with Linux, and what he found is people were giving him computers and saying, this computer's broken.
Exactly, based on software problems, not necessarily based on hardware problems, based on perception.
I love it because in this article, he goes through the realization that, oh, well, this computer isn't broken. This computer just has malware. I can use this if I put Linux on it and it runs fine.
Exactly.
And as an IT person, I'm like, yeah, that happens all the time. But it's funny to see somebody who's not familiar with this stuff see that too. So yeah, there you go. The machines with Linux on there run great. No more viruses, no more crashes.
Well, and if you look at the screenshot there, it's it's a mix and match of different computers. But what's interesting is all these schools are saying, oh, well, we need more money for computers. Baloney. What you need to do is you need to implement a program that's actually taking donations of computers, teaching kids to learn how to do something practical instead of screwing around, and actually make that an extra credit program. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it costs nothing.
I've been involved in deployments of Linux terminal server project in schools, and converting libraries with computers that were like 8, 9 years old over to Linux.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did find is a lot of educational sites would often require Flash or Java, which sometimes got a little crabby under terminal services.
Right. No, and that's true.
When you have like one Linux box with 40 instances of the Flash plugin running, it gets a little weird.
And I can understand it, but even if but there's enough, and I forget the name of the software program specifically, but it's like IT Calc or iTalc, or I can't think of the name specifically, but it's designed for schools to manage multiple computers in a classroom. Sure. So I mean, there's a lot of the basic tools there, and while there are limitations with Flash and things, I think we can move forward with this and say, honestly, we don't need to drop ridiculous sums of money every few years on new computers. This is such wasteful nonsense.
Icarus in the chat room points out that there's a program in Chicago that takes computers in and does this, and then Jedi Pimp in the chat room mentions that teachers want to do this where he's at, but they're handcuffed by educational red tape and permissions. Yeah, we ran into some of that too. This was my argument. So when we were proposing deploying Ubuntu, Edubuntu actually, in this lab,
sure. Good.
The immediate pushback we got was LibreOffice. They didn't want to use LibreOffice because that's not what's used in the workforce. And the argument goes they should use Windows and Microsoft Office, so that way that is a skill that translates into the enterprise. Now or into the business.
Right, I've heard that.
Here's where that falls down. Is that what that made sense between when you had Office 97 to Office 2003?
Yeah.
Because those all had a consistent UI that if you learned in one spot, you could then go out and graduate, and you got to a job, that job would probably be using one of those versions, and the UI was similar. When Office was, when Microsoft introduced Office 2007 or 2000, whenever they introduced the ribbon.
I think it's 2003 with ribbon, yeah.
No, 7.
Oh, 7?
I think.
Seven? It's one of who cares?
Anyway, that changed the whole paradigm.
Sure.
And then it became, all right, just learn the essentials. Learn how to use the mouse and keyboard. Learn how to navigate a computer. Learn spell check. Learn this stuff. That applies to any program regardless of where you go. And now here we are years down the road, and that logic turned out to be true. And now it's not even really an argument. But back then, that was a big deal.
Well, and people that say it's still an issue and still an argument, I've parked people, I would say in their 70s and their 80s, who have used Microsoft Office and then jumped over to LibreOffice for writing letters, things of that sort. They never missed a beat. These are people who have reached an age to where they don't perhaps learn as quickly as they did in their younger years, and yet they're able to adapt to it. And we're saying kids whose brains are like going warp 10 can't relearn this stuff. No, that's nonsense.
Well, and actually, in some cases now,
that's crazy.
Clients that have been on Office 2003 that don't want the ribbon will switch to LibreOffice.
See?
So
obviously someone's getting their pocket.
There's always some excuse, though.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, the next story on the news docket is an interesting one for anyone out there that might be using Adobe Reader under Linux. I'm trying to think of who that would be, actually, because every desktop environment pretty much has some sort of viewer.
Events or whatever it may be,
Yeah. But if you are, Google is putting out a warning. They suggest you stop using Acrobat Reader on Linux. It kind of goes like this. Google had found several bugs in Acrobat Reader that some of them were just crashes, some of them were actually exploitable when they were sort of vetting the PDF engine in Chrome itself.
Yeah.
So they notified Adobe, and Adobe said, okay, we'll push out some updates. Yeah. And so their update day came, and they pushed out updates to Mac OS X and to Windows.
Yeah, that sounds like Adobe.
And they didn't push anything out to Linux. And the ones they did push out to Mac OS X and Windows didn't even fix all of the issues. So Google employees initially examined the PDF engine in Chrome browser, discovered those holes, 40 of which were potential attack vectors. 40 of the 60 issues they found. So now the other issue is researchers told Adobe that they were going to be publishing this information on August 27th. So
good.
Not too long away. That means, though, that exploit code will be out in the wild.
Yeah.
And if you're still using Adobe Reader when that exploit code hits, it doesn't take a lot of work for somebody to take advantage of that exploit code, so you really should switch off.
And this is going to sound incredibly insensitive, but if you're using Adobe Reader on Linux and you're not watching the show and this still happens to you, honestly, there's been I have no pity for you. I just don't.
Yeah, and now you literally have Google employees recommending that users refrain from any PDF documents using PDF documents in Adobe Acrobat. So
yeah, I think it's important to just really stop. And this is also that argument of why you have to be very selective about the software you're using, because if it is proprietary, you are waiting for someone to publish something like this, because otherwise no one ever knows.
Yeah, and it's just a black box until they feel like releasing it. There's no mailing list you can go follow.
No good, no fun.
All right, Matt, well, this next story is pretty interesting. Now, it's a game that's a Kickstarter project. We like to talk about those from time to time, and they just hit their goal to fund Linux. I prefer to cover it when they actually hit the goal, because then it just doesn't feel like it's like a tease and I'm doing promotions for them. But I would have covered this one regardless if they hadn't hit it, but they have. They're still a ways off from their overall goal of $900,000. They're only at $465,000. But this game, I went ahead, I backed it because they've announced that it's going to come to Linux if it hits their goal.
Sure.
And it looks so fun, Matt. It looks like a ton of fun. And I don't know. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. If people are interested in going and checking out a very cool sort of StarCraft type
game. It looks amazing. I mean, really. I mean, I'm just looking at the video right now. This is fantastic.
It's like if I don't know. To me, it almost looks like if you were going to make StarCraft today.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty. And it's got 26 days to go. They're basically halfway there. And so they did this, in 4 or 5 days, maybe? I mean, that's pretty impressive. So I think it's got a real shot. It's
called Planetary Annihilation, the next generation RTS. And
gorgeous.
One of the neat things about it for you audio listeners is the UI is at a planet scale. So you're flying around the surface of the planet. You actually see the curvature of the globe as you're moving around. So you get a very 50,000-foot view type scenario.
And it gives you a sense of control, I would think, during gameplay. A real
and they have.
real
I love
control.
The different robotic animations they have in this thing, and the very cool weapons ideas they have. So if this gets funded, I'll do a review of it on the show when I release it. I did like a $20. Yeah, I did $20. So
and I like what they did there when they're showing what operating systems they support. They said announced 8.17 supporter requested. We listened. That's awesome.
Gosh, look at Linux go. Things are really,
there it is.
Wow, that's exciting. All right. Speaking of where Linux is going, let's talk about where GNOME 355 is going, which is becoming more and more a Linux exclusive desktop all the time. All right, so there's a blog post. GNOME 355 is the development branch for GNOME 3.6, and there's a few things that are hitting. And one of them is a new lock screen, which looks pretty great, and a new print dialog box, and a new brand new wireless dialog that is very clean. I'm kind of stretching for nice things to say because I don't want to dump on it, but it looks very clean.
Well, one of the things I do like about the GNOME project is that I know what to expect, and usually there's not a ton of, with the exception of GNOME 3, there's not a ton of radical stuff happening behind the scenes. I'm really digging the lock screen. I think that actually has a lot of logic behind it, being able to block out what's going on behind the scenes. So that's cool. Whether or not... I mean, cool. I don't have a lot to say one way or the other about it. I wish them all the best. I think the print dialog looks almost identical to...
Yeah, the big changes are they have, their disk tools are much improved.
Okay.
Nautilus is removing the extra split pane browsing. That's one thing. There's some tweaks to Nautilus people aren't happy about.
Why would they do that? I wonder. I mean, what would be the psychology behind that?
So...
Take away functionality?
I didn't put it in the show because I just hit the subreddit this morning.
Sure.
But in the Linux Action Show subreddit, there is an interview with a GNOME developer from Red Hat. And he talks about how sort of the long-term goal is to get rid of the file manager and just use search.
No. I'm sorry.
No, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do.
I hope not.
That's just something he's thinking about. They also talk.
Unthink it.
They also talk a little bit about GNOME OS. So here, I'll go get. I'll go get that interview because that.
And I'm trying not to be a troll, but it's just like.
Look at the chat room is freaking out about that too.
It's just I'm really trying. I'm trying not to be troll. I'm trying not to troll because I don't like being trolled either. But come on,
this is not like a for sure thing. This is just something that came up.
I know, but I mean, it's like I wake up one day and think, what have I not removed functionality from today? I got it. Come on.
So there we go. There's the. Here's what here. Let's see if I can find it.
And I'm probably overstating this. I'm sorry if I am. So
let's see. I'm looking for. They talk about this great interview, very long, a lot of stuff.
And I get the psychology behind it because I mean on the surface it sounds like a really cool idea, but it goes back to something we'll address later with our Unity stuff here, and a future thing that. It's cool to offer a choice, but don't necessarily offer a choice by taking away functionality that we consider a legacy thing that we're used to doing. That's
all right. So
that's very personal. I think.
So he was asked. Here's what I'm trying to get to because they go back and forth. They're talking about how some of the features are being removed from GNOME, from Nautilus and GNOME 3.6.
Sure.
And he kind of gets defensive. He says, "Well, people are judging a pre-release version now, but they did announce those things were coming out. So I think it is fair to judge since they have announced that. But he is right that we are talking about software that's still in development.
But see, and then that's a statement I hear over and over and over again. It's not been released yet, so you can't judge it. Baloney. Even with betas or any distro betas or anything like that, if this is the course that it's taking, you can judge that. And if you want to rip on it based on that course, it's not going to change.
Well, and we do it on Mac OS Mountain Lion and Microsoft Windows 8 all the time. So here's the quote. He says, "What I'm trying to get at after talking about the features being removed, like potentially removing copy and paste and things like that, is I was trying to get to is the long-term goal to get rid of the file manager and use specialized apps like documents or videos for content discovery. Why not keep the file manager as a power user tool?" This is the interviewer asking, right?
Okay.
William John McCann responds, "Well, it is, but there are a few things to note right now. We don't have all of our applications ready. Music and photos, for instance, are still missing." So then he goes on to talk about how conceptually, the main problem they think they have with the file manager right now is it sucks for searching files, but it's the primary thing users want to do is search for files. That's not what I primarily use my file.
Right. I mean,
I use it to manage files.
And how many? And you know, and we're actually covering one of them today. How many tools exist to make locating stuff that you don't know where it is easy? I mean, like what, 20? I mean, the tools already exist. So it's like if you want to maybe borrow from that and integrate it into something or whatever, it's a file manager. It's not supposed to be used for search. Come on, give me a break.
Although this might make you feel better. This same interview goes on to say that Gnome's sort of been doing some soul searching, and they realized that workstations, high-end workstations, and laptops are likely going to be, according to this guy, are likely the future focus for GNOME. But and then he said with a long-term reach goal of touch tablets.
Okay.
But immediate focus should be laptops and high-end workstations.
Okay.
And I dig that line of thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. I still want my file manager. Yeah. I'm just saying. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Call me grumpy, whatever.
So we'll be talking more about GNOME 3.6 when it ships, but there's other stuff in there, but yeah. All right, Matt. Let's talk about a new feature that's coming out in
something happy.
Ubuntu 12.10. A new version of Unity will be shipping, and we're about to talk a little about Unity, so I thought it'd be a good time to cover this. It's called Unity Previews, and it's going to be integrated into the dash menu. So you know that big Ubuntu menu you push that brings out that big screen?
Upper left.
And right now that big screen lets you search for files, search for apps.
It's got the lenses. And it's got all that good stuff.
So take that lens system and bring a whole new level of feature sets to it, and that's what Unity Preview is going to be. So think of it as like a handy new addition to Unity that allows users to preview items in the dash just by right-clicking on the item. So it only comes up when you right-click, but when you right-click on something, like say it's an app, so you right-click on Rhythmbox, a preview window comes up that says this is Rhythmbox.
Okay.
It has 375 reviews from the App Store. It has an average rating of this, and it does these things, and here's a screenshot of what it looks like.
I like it for the following reasons. It's providing me with useful information immediately. It's doing so without interfering with my legacy experience, which is a big thing for me. And it's not really taking anything away from previous releases of Unity itself.
Well, so
I love that. And it's got value added without pissing me off.
Now for us, we pretty much already know what the applications do. I can see how that's useful for
it's pretty. I mean, again, and what's cool is it's not, you have to right click it to experience it. So if I don't care, no problem, and I'm okay with that.
Like here's an example they have of you right click on an MP3 album. And it brings up the album art, the track information, and then it pulls in information from the Ubuntu Music Store.
That's useful.
I don't really use the Ubuntu Music Store, but I like that.
Well, I mean, for someone it does. Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it's, I don't necessarily use it either. I'm more of an Amazon guy, but
all right, but
I mean, it's cool.
Check this one out.
All right.
This one is a Wikipedia version. Oh, you don't like that? I think that's really neat.
I'm not a big Wikipedia guy. I think it's cool.
Okay.
I like choice. I like the fact that they have it.
I like the way it pulls in the info and displays it.
Oh, no, I think it's gorgeous. I would love to see this with other additional sources, maybe other types of...
Oh, sure. Well, it's just up to the different sources to make a lens.
Okay. Yeah. No, then I'm okay with it. Yeah, but Wikipedia, whatever. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool.
It's interesting to see the direction that they are capable of... I've seen a lot of different mock-ups of what they might include in that dash window, and it's compelling. I'll say this.
Yeah. Visually, it's very cool, and depending on the data provided, it could be very compelling.
Yeah, and depending on how well it works.
Yeah.
You know,
if it's a lot of lag time when you're right clicking and waiting, you know.
Well, you know what else I'd like to see is like I'd like to be able to right click a PDF and just or a text document, specifically text documents more than even a PDF or an image file, and have it preview that text document or that image file in that window. So like how right now it's previewing the Rhythmbox app. I would love to see in that spot the actual context of the PDF or the actual contents of the text file. So I don't even have to open it. I can be like, oh, is this the right file? Oh, nope, it's not the right file.
That would be nice. I would like that.
Don't even need to waste time with launching an application.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. I also like, it's kind of like what we have with the music and where you can roll your cursor over it and it begins playing it. So you can, especially if it's labeled badly. It's that same kind of mentality. And time saver.
The chat room is going around about, well, what about the regular contextual menu when you right click? There is no right click in the dash menu right now. The right click does the same thing the left click does right now.
Right.
So they're adding functionality to the right click.
Yeah. And to answer your question, I do use Wikipedia. I don't treat it as gospel. I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's always good to check the sources first rather than taking it as gospel.
That's just good internet precautions there, Matt.
That's how we did it the old school back before the interwebs.
I like that. All right, well, we've got to go make Unity usable, Matt. So
okay.
That's all the news for this week. Now, this week, we're going to talk a little about making Unity usable. For anyone out there who's tried Unity and it hasn't worked for them, Matt and I know your pain. In fact, it turns out Matt and I might have been some of the most vocal anti-Unity people that were out there. And we're going to actually go back and look at the old things we said and own up to them. But before we get to that, I want to remind everyone that this segment is brought to you by the wonderful folks over at System76, the makers of fine machines designed and built from the ground up to run Linux.
Huge thank you to these guys. The machines are fantastic. It's wonderful when you can purchase a machine from them and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they've thought 3, 4, 5 releases ahead as to what's going to work and not being left scrambling trying to figure out, oh my gosh, why is this not working anymore?
Excellent point. As a System 76 owner myself, one of the things that I love is because you're dealing with a vendor who fundamentally understands and is involved with Linux and Ubuntu specifically, they just get how user expectations work in that environment. For example, if you have, say, a laptop that has a webcam and there is a kernel update that comes out and breaks the webcam driver, System 76 is watching that. They know that, and you know what you see in your update manager? An updated driver. Right there, built into the update manager, just part of your regular old system updates. You as an end user, you don't even have to worry about it. That's one of the things I love about System 76. They are so perfect for this segment because System 76 is really about giving you a trouble-free Linux experience. And with combined with the tips we're going to cover today, I think one of the best desktop experiences available, period.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. One last example would be laptops. A lot of folks want to know why do they pick one laptop style over another laptop style. And while I can't speak officially on their behalf, I can give you my interpretation of that. And it's because they know that there aren't going to be any surprises, such as with a certain Dell laptop here recently that they just realized, oh, wait a minute,
the screen brightness controls don't work.
And all the patches that are needed.
Yeah.
This isn't an issue here.
Right.
It works out of the box. So
it's designed for this.
Done.
Yeah. Love it.
Easy. Okay.
So now, Matt and I, we went on record as not being big fans of Unity. Matt, what did you say when you... Now, is this your review of Ubuntu 11.04 when Unity shipped?
And this is me as an Ubuntu guy, as someone that really enjoyed GNOME 2 and really enjoyed all the experiences that went with it. When Unity first rolled out, I was quoted as saying in one of my articles from, I think, May 2011, I believe, somewhere in that space. I said, apparently, spending 15 minutes looking for something in a menu that is, or excuse me, I'm going to try that again. Apparently, spending 15 minutes looking for something in a menu that is more attractive provides more value than getting things done in less than 5 seconds. What I meant by that is I couldn't get my head around why I would try to go to the dash, look for one thing,
right?
And then try and figure out where it is, and then list of applications, scroll through all that, when instead I could just go bam, accessories, bam, 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 and just get it done. At the time, I was very against the way Unity was doing things, and I went off harder than that even in that article.
So we have a link to Matt's original review he did over at datamation.com, and you were critical, Matt. Now, my review of 11.04 went similar. Now, I'll play a clip for you guys. I'm sorry the audio is a little glitchy. We recorded this live at Linux Fest Northwest 2011, and we had some audio hardware problems. So the audio glitch you're hearing is in the clip itself. It's just there it's just a quick clip, but here's what I said. I was very, very displeased.
You used it in early, this was, you used it like
ago,
December earlier.
And then we said, you know, let's try GNOME 3 and do a review for the Linux Action Show. You can check a few episodes ago for that. The reason kind of why we went that route is I had to take a break. I literally had to release the pressure from this. I had to go there, release some of the pressure, and then try Unity again. I had to step away. I don't know. I think I finished there. I don't know if I finished my thought, but I cut because we don't have the audio. But what I was saying is that essentially I would have wiped Unity off my system if it wasn't for the fact that I was forced to use it for the review.
Yeah.
And during the review process of Unity, I had to stop, walk away, and stop using it for a little while, and then come back because I found the experience so infuriating.
That's true. Yeah. And another thing that I also caught grief for was I was really torn a new one by, I believe it was one of those websites that corrects people in the media that say things that someone might not agree with. And I was ripped a new one for basically pointing out that Unity was forced upon us, and we had no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, if you consider the fact that Joe Average doesn't know how to switch desktop environments, that is accurate. But I was again torn a new one on it. I mean, and then of course looking at it now, my habits changed and evolved to where now it's like, honestly, for applications, I don't necessarily need to go from menu to this to that, the other thing. I can literally type in, I don't even have to know the name of it. It's video editor. I type in the word video.
I mean, let's be clear too. Unity, Unity since 11.04 shipped has gotten significantly better.
It's gotten, exactly. It performs better, which smoothed me over.
And I think also, to be fair, the desktop landscape on Linux changed a little bit. And competitively, things have sort of settled down, and maybe Unity has some competitive advantages. That said, we've come up with about 10 tweaks that I think you have to make to Unity in order to make it a usable desktop environment for a power user.
Exactly.
The first one is still a complaint from my original review, which I linked in the show notes if you can put up with the audio glitches. The original day one complaint I have with Unity is the launcher is too damn slow. Watch. I will hit my super key and wait for the delay. You see there it goes, right?
Right.
Way too long. Now watch the difference when I execute do. Instantly.
Right.
Do instantly pops up. So I will do, and in the time that it just takes the dash panel to pop up, I can execute and launch an application with do. So my first recommendation is, if you want just a quick application launcher, check out an application launcher like do.
And if GNOME Do's not working for you, Synapses is what I use at home. It's the same type of responsiveness, and in many ways, it can actually find things more effectively than the actual search function built into Unity itself. And that makes it more usable for me.
And there's lots of great plugins for do as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know about Synapse. I never use that.
Yes, I would say so. I really, there's no one versus another as far as being better. I'd say they're just different. But either one are fantastic. Check them out.
All right. Now, this next one is the side panel on Unity. The launcher is actually, it's nice. It's all keyboard hot accessible. It supports live updates of progress indicators.
I like it. It's grown on me.
Yeah, it's grown on me a lot. And one of the deficiencies, though, is I would love to have little pop-up drawers. So I can stash a bunch of icons in one icon.
I love it.
So here is a PPA that you can install that gives you essentially just that. Now, it's a little buggy because I actually have it right here. I have this wine icon, and it's not working right now.
Okay.
But when it does work, is you can create drawers from any icon. You add it to your launch bar, and then when you click it, a window expands with a bunch of sub-icons. So I made one, for example, called Wine. I click that wine drawer, it opens up, and I've got Internet Explorer under wine, I've got Crossover Office, I've got Play on Linux, I've got Wine Tricks, all in this one folder. I've got every wine app that I've installed just in one subfolder.
Something that just occurred to me when you mentioned that is that essentially this could, in fact, using on the side like that, replace the whole, when you're coming from menu and you have the video section and you have the audio section and all that, you can literally recreate that experience and still have some Unity love. That's kind of cool.
What's nice about it is, so you see, like I mentioned, my drawer's not opening right now, but I can still right-click on the drawer, and all of the things I've added in there are still available as a quick list item. So I could still, boom, Play on Linux, I can still execute, and it loads up Play on Linux.
Exactly. And it becomes actually faster than, say, Cinnamon and trying to find something the old-fashioned way that way, actually, by doing it that. Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's pretty cool.
So that is drawers, and you can get that just by adding the PPA and then installing it.
Love it.
While we're talking about the menu, the overall menu in Unity is somewhat limited in what you can tweak, but if you install this really simple app called Menu Libre, you actually get some really awesome tweaking capability. So here, Matt, I've got it installed, and I'll run it for you. And it's just called Menu Editor once you have it installed. And you can see here it's got, here, I'll minimize my, you can see here it's got, here's like all of my different, standard categories like accessories, development, education, multimedia, internet, all the stuff you'd normally find.
Okay.
And I can go in here and check this out. I can go into internet, and I really love Midori. I'm going to make this an app pick in the future, right? And say I want to edit the Midori shortcut. Now, what I can do is I can actually go in here and I can edit the quick list.
Oh,
and I've added JB Gmail. And I've added the Midori command --app. So now when I right-click on Midori,
oh, that's fantastic.
I have a little option in here. Oh, I didn't save it. But for example, I did it in Chrome. When I right-click on Chrome, I have my Gmail. And because I did --app, it actually launches Chrome as a single Gmail process. So now I can still continue to use Chrome and all that stuff, and it's just a self-contained version of my email right from the launch bar. And of course, I could put anything I want in that quick list. It could be a private Chrome session. It could be a specific Chrome profile. It could be any command that the application will accept. You just sit here and you just add it through this little menu editor. It's really
so
easy
essentially,
to use.
instead of actually being separate pages, they're separate instances. They're separate.
Yeah.
It's
a built-in feature to Midori and Chrome, but
very cool. Okay,
and of course, you can edit any icon. You can edit the application's path. You can put what categories it's in. You can say if it's allowed to use startup notifications. You can say if it runs in a terminal. You can actually hide it from the menu altogether. You can edit the actual little no menu config file about it. This is a really great little app. It's called Menu Libre. And I've added it so that way I just right-click on Chrome, boom, my Gmail launches its own process.
I'm installing this when I get home. I really dig that. That's actually very cool. I love the control.
Midori is such a great browser. So it's perfect because one of the other things you can do is you could have your regular old, say you use Chromium. You could have your regular old Chromium window up and you're just in a Gmail account, whatever, minding your own business.
Okay.
You could then, if you had a separate app setup where you just do the -app and you specify the URL where it launches Chrome as that.
Right. All right.
You could have a separate Gmail account logged in to that one. So if you have multiple Gmail accounts, you can have one browser logged into one and the other browser logged into the other one, all while still within Chromium.
I'm liking that.
So
okay. Yeah, we definitely need to examine this closer in a future review.
Yeah.
I like it. I love it.
All right, so let's see. What's next on the list over there, Matt? Do you have...
what do we got?
Oh, I got it here.
You got it?
All right.
Okay.
So this next mention I want to cover is maybe not applicable to everyone. But one of the things Unity is working towards is much more streamlined integration with web applications.
Okay.
And a big part of the Jupyter Broadcasting workflow is Google Docs.
That's true.
And there's just no getting around that for us. And so I want to recommend two different things. Number one is GW Office. And GW Office is Google Web Office. And I actually talked about it briefly on the show a while ago. And it's a self-contained Google browser that's designed specifically to work with GDocs. And what I mean by that is it gives you almost like menus along the browser bar that you would expect to see in an Office editor.
And if I'm not mistaken, it even has some offline functionality.
Yes. Which is
I
nice.
like that.
So here you can see, here it is. I'm going to open up today's Linux Action Show show notes, and I'm opening up all within this self-contained Google Docs app. Now, what's great about it is
it feels also, guys looking at it it looks exactly this. I like that. Okay, the layout's right.
It has integrated HUD support too, so you can do things like execute file print from the HUD because it integrates in with all of that stuff.
All right,
and they keep adding stuff. Now, so that's GW Office, and it lets you utilize Google Office or Google Docs in a self-contained application. There's something else out there called InSync. Now, are you familiar with InSync?
I am not.
So InSync is sort of like Dropbox for Google Docs, or like Google Drive for Linux. So what it does is it goes out there and it syncs down all of your Google Docs to a local folder on your hard drive. Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so you can just browse them like you would a Dropbox folder or an Ubuntu One folder. So, of course, here it is. It's loading up now. Here's all of my Google Docs that are just now listed on my file
system. It seems very responsive.
Yeah, it's once they're all synced up, it's here. And what's really cool about it is you can then open these things up in your standard local editors, so like LibreOffice. So here, I'll open up an old episode of the Linux Action Show.
I love it. Yeah, you sold me right there. I love that.
And what's great is this is thanks to Google Docs. It brings over all of the special formatting, any of the special colorings. Like if you make a note in a Google Doc,
It'll actually translate
it'll
over.
It'll translate. So here, let's see. We made some docs in here. So here's this week's episode right here. I'm bringing up, right?
And we have some notes.
And we have some notes down here. And look, there's the notes that you and I had while we were prepping for the show. They're translated over. And if I responded to those notes in LibreOffice and then save the document, InSync will send it back up to Google Docs.
Date and timestamps are all there. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Okay. Everything's preserved. So you can fully work within Google Docs using LibreOffice, and you can have other people at the other end using Google Docs.
I like it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's a good way to you access your docs in a web interface when you're kind of on in a spot where maybe you don't have your regular setup.
Exactly.
And you get back to your main machine and you can
and especially if your connection's spotty and you're actually concerned about actually losing a connection at some point.
Oh, yeah.
By having it local like that, that's really
And the other
tight.
thing that's nice too is it goes through all the recent changes here in this little drop-down menu, sort of like Dropbox does. And it also tells you, of course, it's cut off right now, but there you go. It also tells you who the author was that made the change. So I can see here that Chris at JupiterBroadcasting.com shared a doc.
Oh, that's cool.
Right?
I like
so it's
that.
just right from there. Anyways, so that's called InSync.
It's got an error dialogue. Okay, that's pretty cool.
They are focused on Ubuntu support right now, but I'm sure you can get it working on.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, Matt. So that's GW Office and InSync. Now, a couple of things just to take advantage of the Unity dashboard.
Okay.
There's a lot of things you can plug into that thing, like a Wikipedia lens.
Yeah, like a lens. Like a lens. Yes.
Why not do something like, if you're a Twitter user, why not a Gwibber lens? Now, Gwibber integrates nicely with the Ubuntu desktop. So if I bring up my dash here, and there we go. So you see how right here in my dash, I have Twitter messages. I have @replies. I have images people have shared, links people have shared, private messages sent to me, all right here within Unity. So if I'm looking for something and I want to waste a little time, I just scroll down, and it's nice. It's cut off. It doesn't take up any space.
It provides an interesting contrast to read it. And I think if you're looking at archived stuff over time, especially if you're looking for something going back a distance, this is a nicer layout to find it in, I think.
Well, and what's really cool too, Matt, is if I click on one of these things, it'll bring it up right to that tweet, and I can respond right there. And
that's cool.
Yeah. So anyways,
that's pretty cool. No, I like that, and I think for when it comes to archived stuff, I think that I could really see value there.
So that's the Gwibber lens, and you just search for that in the app repo in the App Store, and you'll find that. Okay, so get that in there now. While you're also at it, this one is a recommendation I'm not making for everybody.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about it.
Matt, you just say you'll be the good cop. You say don't do it, and I'll be the bad cop, and I'll say do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely
don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
All right. So what I don't want you to do is install this pre-patched version of Nautilus from Solois or Solois OS.
We're butchering it, but you get the idea. Yeah.
The main nicety of this patched version of Nautilus is it restores the location bar, it unifies the top Nautilus bar, it gives you back a few options and moves the arrows over to the left-hand side. So now, in my Nautilus browser, I have, to me, what seems to be a much more rational file manager top bar. And I just hit this one button, there's my location bar. Okay. You know, it still also will do the breadcrumbs if you want it, and I like having all of my arrow keys on the left-hand side. This also is maintaining the split pane feature that is being removed from official Nautilus, so if that's important to you and you want to have split pane views, this one will be keeping that.
My reasoning for saying not to do it, and I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying you need to be aware of, is the fact that while it works well now, when an update comes along, these things tend to get convoluted. An alternative is finding an alternative file manager if Nautilus in its current form isn't working for you.
Oh, so hold that thought, because in the feedback segment, somebody emailed one in.
Well, there you go. Yeah, stay tuned for that.
All right. So while we're talking about things you might not want to consider doing, you also might not want to consider installing the Ubuntu 12.10 theme in Ubuntu 12.04.
Nothing wrong with this.
It looks now. This one isn't quite as hacky because you actually just go out and get the theme file and install it.
No big deal. Yeah.
But you know, the 12.10 theme is a little crisper. It's a little more square. It looks good, and I think it's overall a more professional look. I didn't want to wait because I might just stay on 12.04 for a while because I really have things working. I didn't want to wait for that to come around and have to make that decision.
You wanted the theme now.
I wanted 12.10's theme now. I think it looks better. I think it's an improvement that needs to be made in 12.04. You can go get that, and you just have
and did it seem it probably works fine? As you said, it's just a theme file.
It's just a theme file.
Not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, they literally link to just the theme files.
I can think of no reason why you shouldn't or couldn't. So
now here's something that was probably the most critical thing for me to adopt Unity full time.
Okay,
and it might seem trivial to a lot of people.
This ought to be interesting. I may even have some mirrored experiences here.
This is a tool called Unsettings. Unsettings. And its claim to fame is it lets you make changes to the Unity that aren't otherwise options exposed to you. The most important thing in my mind is Matt, do you notice that my menus are always being shown along the top of my screen?
I have noticed that.
My global menus are always on. I want to see if my brain doesn't tell my hand to send the mouse up there if there's nothing there.
And see, I'm wired the other way. I after using it extensively for so long, for it's just automatic now. I don't even think about it.
You know, it's just because I don't know what it was, Matt. I don't know. And I'll tell you, I started using Unity a few weeks before Ubuntu 12.04 came out because I knew I wanted to do a good review for the show. Like I didn't want to sit down and talk about Ubuntu 12.04 on the Linux Action Show and be hung up on how hard it was to switch to Unity.
Understood. Yeah,
so I said to myself, Chris, you need to use this like a month straight before you even do the review. That way you can really wrap your brain around it.
Exactly, versus a drive-by review. Yeah.
And that is really when my narrative around Unity changed from I can't stand using this to what I realized is it is a combination of simplicity and power. Exactly. And it's striking a balance that I don't believe any other Linux desktop is striking. If you make these tweaks, if you're willing to invest some time in learning how to use it, it's just the one thing I couldn't wrap my brain around, probably just because of years and years of use, was hiding menus.
Yeah,
I just couldn't wrap my brain around that.
Yeah. And for me, it's I don't have such a problem with that. For me, once I got the launchers going and the performance was cleaned up, I was good. I was a happy camper.
And like a shot in the chat room is pointing out, this is a stupid app fixing a problem that shouldn't be in Ubuntu. Totally agree. This shouldn't be like this, and I believe they're actually making this tweak in 12.10, the menus, the global menus tweak.
I think it should be an option to toggle on and off by default.
So with this program called Unsetting, you can do just that. You install Unsetting, and it literally gives you a toggle to turn on and off global menus. So if you want them always on or always off, you just toggle it right here. And I think that's great. And it also gives you easy ways to readjust the size of the launcher panel and tweak a few of the other settings that people want. It's just a PPA away. And so I went into this Unsettings program and just enabled my global menus to always be on. And now I'm a happy
simple
boy.
fix. Yeah. And amazing how easy that is once the proper app comes along to make that possible. All of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I can totally use this now.
Yeah. So this one to me it's obviously fixing kind of like Do. GNOME Do is fixing a problem that the Unity launcher should already have solved. It's just not fast enough.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I understand. And in its defense, it's loading things differently. There's a lot more gloss to it.
Yeah.
I understand that.
The lens features are very cool.
Yeah.
I've got my Twitter feed in there, so
but
obviously
it's not always appropriate.
Yeah. I use them for different things.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's been my philosophy with it. Yeah, for me, a launcher is the way to go.
So Unsettings, and link to that, and you go get the PPA. Now, one of the things that I know hit you really hard in your write-up is you were really pissed, and I was too, man. You were really pissed that they took away applets.
Oh, I
love the applets in GNOME too.
That was I'm sorry, but I'm not going to run top every time I want to see what my what my system's doing. It's just not going to happen.
It's absolutely outrageous. I use those system load indicators to tell me there's so much that can convey to me about my computer just by glancing at that.
CPU throttle, temperatures, all of it.
Network I/O, so I know if a file transfer is still happening.
Exactly.
It's everything.
Without having to open up separate stuff. Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the very first things I have to do on a fresh Unity desktop is I have to load the system indicator applet, which replaces the #1 thing I need. And you can see, Matt, I have it running up here.
Oh yeah, and on all my machines, every single one of them, I have this running because I can't even use other operating systems because they don't have it. I mean, that's how.
No, you got to have it. And it's very simple. There's a little PPA. You just go load it, and then it is just like you used to remember. And I actually like the little drop-down menu it does here because it will give you all of the vital stats in live updates, and then you're just one button away from opening System Monitor, which is nice. So anyways, system load indicator, and you can go find a link to that in the show notes.
Sweet.
System load.
You really, really ought to check this out. It's nice. It doesn't use a lot of resources running in the background. It's just a must-have.
It's good. All right, now the last tweak that I think Matt and I would, Matt, you got to agree on this one, especially after we've talked about.
Oh, yeah, I've used it, yeah.
We've talked a lot of PPAs that have been added to, if you're following along, a lot of these things come delivered via PPAs, and you end up having sort of this mess of different PPAs. Now, the PPA, the Personal Package Archive, is kind of a neat solution that Canonical has introduced for Ubuntu. However, I think the popularity of it sort of exceeded their reach, and it's not very manageable right now.
Well, see, the problem is this, from a command line, adding a PPA, no big deal. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But most folks are very familiar with adding them, but removing them or managing them, you really, in my opinion, want a GUI to actually see a list of what's going on. So you go to software sources and you look and you're thinking, I have to find what now? And you've got this list of it's mixed match, official and non-official, but this solves that problem.
It does. So this is called, what we're talking about is YPPA Manager. And, oops, of course I can't type with worth nothing. But YPPA Manager is a very simple app that you can install on your Ubuntu box. And it lets you go through and remove old PPA sources. It lets you pause, just like turn them off for a little bit and turn them back on.
Especially if you're testing a problem update or something like that.
Yeah. It lets you search for availability for ones that are in Launchpad. So if you know the name of one, but you don't know what their Launchpad site is, you can just search for it in here and then it'll add it to your system. And then, of course, it'll go through and audit them and make sure they're still active and things like that. So YPPA Manager, and it's a very handy tool to figure out what's installed that's using PPAs, what PPA sources are dead, replacing them, and all those kinds of things.
It's a friendly environment to do it from as well.
Keeps it all clean. And the problem is some of these PPAs will die off after a while. And then
this is true.
When you do an apt-get update, your system just kind of hangs there waiting for the source repo to time out.
Or you've updated your system and you forgot that you have a PPA that you haven't updated along with it, and it's still calling stuff from a previous... it's very messy, and this gives you a nice list to go through and make sure you're running appropriately.
Boy, I feel like we cranked through that, but I think once I've made these changes, I've been really impressed with the usability of Unity. And if you've been a Unity hater, I'm not trying to convince you to switch. But if you're on the fence, try these things and give it a try, because I really feel like Unity has a pretty good future ahead of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for myself personally, I use Unity on my main desktop machine, and I use other desktops as well, but I keep coming back to it because once you get these tweaks made, it's a very comfortable place to be. It's not for everybody, and but it's something you can get average folks to use nicely. So.
Something else that was important to me was I kind of buy into the concept of a unified interface across my devices in terms of computer devices. Like I have a netbook that Unity runs really great on, and it's a tiny screen. I also have a 30-inch cinema display, and Unity runs really great on that. This right here is a 28-inch monitor, and Unity looks great on that. Unity really scales well across a lot of different resolutions.
And as you add more applications on your little sidebar there, it will actually begin to stack them.
Yeah, like see this one here, I love it because it stacks them there, and then I can just scroll with the mouse through them. And see, it's just...
and so if you're not a launcher person, it's still very manageable.
Here is, there was one bonus pick I might mention is also Ubuntu Tweak. Ubuntu Tweak is a really good app to help change just a few of the settings, that maybe are just kind of annoying you. It's great at that kind of stuff. Like you can go in here to tasks, and you can change your theme. You can change your Unity settings like transparencies and things like that. You can turn on and off the HUD. All that kind of stuff. Check out Ubuntu Tweak. It's also just in the software.
It's very cool. When running the janitor aspect of it, just be cautious of what you're having it set to remove or not remove. You never know. Just, sometimes you got to be careful there, but it's really cool.
So there you go. Now, now that's our thoughts on using Unity and making it great. But in the feedback segment, we had a survey conducted on the Linux Action Show audience to see what desktops they use.
This was interesting. Yeah, I did not see this coming.
All right, Matt. Well, that's all the Unity coverage I think we've got for today. I'll be curious to hear what people think.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the feedback.
All right.
And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Now, Matt, before we get out of here, let's cover some feedback.
Let's hear about the feedback.
Now, the first one I want to get to is the end of last week's show. I put the call out there for any recommendations for remote viewing of a Linux desktop session. And I got a couple of good submissions.
Did you? Okay, let's hear about them.
One came from Mike Iron Fist in the Linux Action Show subreddit. And he said, I recommend X11 VNC. It supports passwords, allowing only certain clients from certain IPs. And it's very powerful and very customizable. And he's even got a bash script showing how he uses it, complete with a silly and fake password example. And it's very easy to get going. And also, you can tunnel it over SSH.
I've had good experiences with it myself. Yeah. Yes. Generally speaking, set up properly and with your tunneling setup, on a good connection, you can actually run it from remote locations pretty smoothly. We got some honorable mentions for FreeNX and NX Server. Yeah. But the other one I want to talk about, because we just don't really talk about it on this show very often, is TeamViewer. Nathan wrote in and said, I prefer TeamViewer to link all of my computers together, using this for all remote desktop needs. It runs okay in Wine,
but it does take some fighting with it from time to time. You can also use an iPad, an Android phone, or a Windows box to connect to it. The nice thing about TeamViewer is that I have an account with them, and I log into the device and click the computer I want. It's sort of like they do a proxy thing for that.
And what's also nice is that it has functionality such as dual screen support. I can provide remote support for someone using another operating system, and it works flawlessly.
Oh, that is nice.
It's pretty cool. And even on my mobile phone, I've been known to do remote support from my phone.
Wow, Matt, you're hardcore.
I am hardcore.
All right, so the next email is you teased this already. We talked about dual pane file manager features, and so we got a great email here from Brian, and Brian with an I writes in and says, "I just discovered this neat file manager you might be interested in. It's a nifty 2-pane centric setup, built-in terminal." It has a built-in terminal, which does basic text editing too, and it's easily customizable. So here's a screenshot of it. Now, Matt, it's called EMLF. M2 EML. See, watching SciByte in the background.
I definitely dig the layout. I'm not big fan of the name, but definitely dig the layout.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking. And you know, I was negligent. I should have mentioned. I just realized we were talking a little bit about using Unity and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
My wife Angela and I did a Linux Action Faux on Wednesday.
Oh gosh, yes.
She sat down and used Unity for the first time ever, and walked through some of her first impressions and thoughts on what it was like. And it was fascinating to watch somebody sit down and use that stuff. And I was pretty surprised with some of her observations. So I will have a link to that in the show notes. Go check out the Linux Action Faux if you're curious about that. She also covers a neat way to get Minecraft running under Linux.
Oh, it was cool. And I think it was also very telling to understand more of the mentality behind Unity. Because then when you see someone that's not used to it before, just to where they're drawn to, what areas they're using. It
was extremely illuminating, I thought. Yeah. And the comments have been really positive, too, because a lot of people thought... It's just, we live in this bubble where we know all of this stuff. We know the names for all of these things. We know that Debian systems require debs, and that Red Hat systems use RPMs, and all of these things that we just sit down in front of a desktop computer and start using and already know are completely lost upon somebody who's never really used a Linux desktop.
And I found that most people in the Linux space become rather calloused as far as a newbie's perspective. And if you're not doing it our way, well, there's something wrong with you. It's so easy, just do this. And that's not necessarily the case. You know, it's a new experience. Yeah.
All right, Matt. Now, let's get to these polls we've got. We've got which desktop do you use poll, and what bash script from the last week's bash episode.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about the desktop poll first.
Okay, let's get that out.
So we've got 5,482 votes here, and so this is just a sample. I wouldn't say this is scientific by any means.
Sure.
But look at this, Matt. This is pretty impressive.
Oh, this is very telling. Okay.
Just kind of as you might expect, GNOME 3, KDE 4, and Unity are all pretty close to neck and neck, with awesome Fluxbox, the other lightweight desktop environments sort of trailing. GNOME 3 comes in at 18%, 968 votes. KDE 4 at 15%, and Unity at 18% with 1,000 votes. And when you break it down, you can break it down by different age groups. And
this is
that.
This would be interesting. I'd like to see who's.
It seems to be across the age groups, pretty much universal. GNOME 3 kind of has a larger following in the 25 to 34 range, which is what I fall into.
And so what about the 34 to whatever range? Well, who's rocking that? So 35 to 44.
That one, KDE takes a little bit of a jump up, but Unity is a pretty big clencher.
Interesting.
A strong 20% lead there.
Because that's mine. My thing. So, okay.
And then, cool. Interesting enough, Chrome voters overall preferred Unity at 21%. Firefox voters overall preferred, it looks like actually KDE 4, which is interesting. And then we can go down here, voters by operating system. People who are running Windows that voted preferred GNOME 3. People running Linux who voted preferred...
Now that's interesting. So Windows people are actually preferring GNOME 3, where the GNOME 3 people are saying, hey,
it could be that's just the OS they're running like at work or something.
Maybe they're on to something. Maybe I'm wrong.
But Unity taking a pretty good lead, and also GNOME 3 a stronger representation here than I expected.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting. What would this have looked like 6 months ago? What would this have looked like a year ago? Would Unity even register on that poll? Would it be down where LXDE is? And also, look how underrepresented XFCE is at 13% of the votes.
Wow.
And I would have thought XFCE might have been at the top of this.
For our audience, that was my guess. Maybe a little KDE beneath that, or maybe some,
Yeah.
That's really telling. That's really telling, because that's kind of a go-to desktop for a lot of people.
Now, there's a conversation thread in the Linux Action Show subreddit about this poll. In there is also links to the Arch package statistics, where you can see what Arch users use, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
If you guys want to check that out, head over to Linux Action.
A lot of good data there.
All right, Matt, here is the final results from our Bash Champion poll. Now, I mentioned the last poll had nearly 6,000 votes. This one only has 153 votes. So obviously the people out there are done with the Bash script stuff. I think that's the declaration.
The message has been loud clear.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
So the winner of the script champions was a one-line Bash script, or I'm sorry, a Bash script that emails your public IP when it changes, followed by a close second lead, the JB Live Show Recorder represent that automatically records live streams. The one winning the bronze medal in this example is the one-line Bash HTTP server.
I'd say that's about on par with what I expected. Yeah.
Now, here's what I want to know, folks. Would you like the Linux Action Show to do a review on two-factor authentication using Google Authenticator? It would be tied to Google Authenticator, but what it would do is it would allow you to type in a password, and then it would prompt you using your smartphone for a Google 2auth code that then would log you into your desktop. If you would like a demo on that, I'll play with that. I just don't want to go mess up my system before I know people want to see that, so let us know. The other thing we're working on, I think down the road, is a backtrack review.
I think that'd be well timed.
Yeah, so we'll have that come soon. So let us know. Leave a comment or wherever you want, however you want to let us know if you would like to see a review.
Find us, Reddit, subreddit. Got a great subreddit.
But let us know about the two-factor thing, because I'm not going to do the two-factor thing if people aren't interested. And keep in mind, it would mean probably some security episodes back-to-back. Two-factor authentication and backtrack are both going to be security-focused, so keep that in mind as well. But all right, Matt.
Alrighty.
Well, there you go. If you'd like to send in something to Linux Action Show to have us review it or to read it during the feedback segment, you can email it to linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or you can use the contact form at the top of the show, at the top of the jupiterbroadcasting.com show page, or submit it to the subreddit at linuxactionshow.reddit.com.
My personal favorite.
Yeah, mine too. All right, everyone. Well, I think that just about wraps up this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. What the?
You got cords. Oh my God! He's got a cord coming out of something here. That'll keep you up at night.